જ નેટવર્ક 18ના એડિટર ઇન ચીફ રાહુલ જોશી સાથે એક્સક્લુઝિવ ઇન્ટરવ્યુમાં નાણામંત્રી નિર્મળા સીતારામણે જીએસટી રિફોર્મના નિર્ણયથી લઈને ટેરિફ રેપો રેટ સુધીના તમામ મુદ્દાઓ પર ચર્ચા કરી. તેમણે કહ્યું કે સામાન્ય જનતા માટે જીએસટીમાં રિફોર્મ કર્યા છે તો કેપેક્સ ઉપર પણ વાત કરતા તેમણે કહ્યું કે જીએસટી કપાત છતાં કેપેક્સનો લક્ષ્ય ઘટાડ્યો નથી. તો ટેરિફને લઈને નિવેદન આપતા તેમણે કહ્યું કે ટેરિફથી અસરગ્રસ્ત સેક્ટરને મદદ કરવા માટે યોજના બનાવી રહ્યા છે. સાથે જ તેમણે ડેડ ઇકોનોમીવાળા વિપક્ષના નિવેદન પર પણ પ્રહાર કરતા કહ્યું કે દેશની બહાર કરતાં દેશની અંદરના લોકો જ દેશ વિશે ખરાબ બોલી રહ્યા છે. આવો સાંભળીએ તેમણે આ ઇન્ટરવ્યુમાં શું કહ્યું.
I had to do a dredging kind of an exercise.
Yes.
Where every item which comes under the GST, goods or services, had to be looked at, not just by their codes, not just by their names, but to regroup them from the point of view of daily use items, that which is consumed by citizens, middle class, the poor but in particular, and then you looked at those which are going to hit the farmers, those which are going to hit the middle class, and so on. Because eventually, daily use items or items which are necessary for this transition of India from a emerging, developing economy to a Vikasit Bharat cannot be on the back of, just the approach of we need more development, bridges, roads, some contracts for works and so on, but also that the aspirations of the growing families will have to be met. So we had to regroup them in such a way, okay, this is essential for, let's say, the families, poor middle class families. Of course the rich will come in. So what do we do as a treatment for it? But even as we were talking about this, we are talking about the classification of goods and services. I, without any hesitation, will bring that example of the popcorn. Why am I saying hesitation? Because I was pilloried on it.
Yes, absolutely.
But that tells you the problem of classification, where we brought in a system, no doubt, which was an improvement of over the pre-GST era, where every state defined its own and had its own rate and so on. So GST in 2017 was an improvement over what was earlier. But it still required some more simplification, and that's why this exercise. And in the case of the popcorn, it led to a lot of litigation, courts coming up with different kind of voices, and states losing revenue because of the classification being different. People chose to have the higher taxed sugary chocolatey popcorn shown in as a salted popcorn because that has only very little tax on it. So this arbitrage because of classification had to be overcome. So even as I'm grouping for families, their day-to-day items, this thought of what the classification is causing as a problem also had to be addressed. Like that, I think it was one of the, for me it was a fascinating exercise. It was rigorous, it took a lot of my time and time which would have gone in for something else. But I think this was absolutely rewarding an exercise because you brought in that temperament which is so important, that citizen looks at these things in one particular way. Revenue is not the consideration. So that helped us.
So now, any impact on capital spending or fiscal deficit,
I wouldn't think. At this moment I can say with confidence, capital expenditure of the government will not come down. It will be completed as is stated in the budgetary planning time, the budget estimate time, and so with the fiscal deficit. And this is the last point of my gliding path.
Right.
I will adhere to it.
Combined tax revenue impact of this, earlier your income tax cuts, and this is about 1.2 lakh crore. Do you think that there will be a certain revenue buoyancy as well in the coming years to make up for this? And
every economic theory that one studies says that.
Yeah, have you seen that in the past?
At least the moment the income tax reduction happened, you heard people very clearly coming out and saying I mean, I've met up with a lot of individuals coming from different strata of the society saying, I'll have more money to send my son to this particular college. My daughter is already doing engineering. I'll be able to fund her for her higher studies and things like that. And from ordinary citizens who are leading their lives either working in a small store or driving a car, taxi, and so on. So it has an immediate psychological effect that I can do this, which was beyond my affordability. And therefore, I think there will be a buoyancy in terms of revenue.
You know, from the Prime Minister's vision of making life easy for the common man, of, reducing the burden on the common man, you did it in your budget last time by cutting the income tax rate, a bonanza for the middle class. What was the vision behind this? What did the Prime Minister tell you? How did it come about?
Even about 8 months ago, he called me once and had a long talk about how GST can be, revamped, looked at, and only from one point of view. He said, look, both from the point of view of the process and also for the common man, the tax rates, is there a way in which we can make it simpler? So I had agreed that I will go into it and come back to him. Then around the budget, when we were talking about many, tax-related issues, he reminded me about the work which has got to be done. And I assured him again that time that yes, the work is progressing and I'll come back to him. So sometime after the budget session was over of the Parliament, I said I'm somewhere close to giving him a proposal, which he can guide me further and so on. Is that I just want, as I said at the first meeting, the simplistic or simplified, not simplistic, simplified way of doing business. So I don't want small businesses sitting at the computer, getting the auditor to do it. And also, like the way we did in the budget, respecting the middle class, respecting the taxpayer, respecting people who are really the ones out of their salaries giving the tax. We need to do something for the day-to-day indirect tax, which falls on every Indian citizen in some way or the other. So this tax is something which touches the lives of every citizen, and therefore we need to be a lot more sensitive. So I went back with this comment, redid it, sharp focused it, and that's how this proposal came. And
so Q1 GDP numbers are heartening, 7.8%, at a time when President Trump said that, India is a dead economy. How do you react to something like that?
I may not be able to comment on, let's say, foreign head of the state commenting on it. But in India, one line which I keep repeating several times, probably even once when I met you once earlier when we chatted like this, it is the cynics within India who worry me. It is the naysayers within India who worry me. Assume somebody had said it, a head of state has said it. Building India together, and all of us together building India, are we going to carry those tales or stories or observations which somebody else says and then repeat that here, oh, so and so has said this, India's a dead economy, we knew it, this is happening, that's happening. India requires its citizens to be respected. They are toiling and struggling and working to build their families and their economies, their own personal family wealth and whatever. At this time when we are trying to create more opportunities, do we need the naysayers to even borrow such observations, be it as it may that it is coming from a head of state? Do we need our own people to use these expressions? It is undermining not the government, you're undermining our citizens' efforts. And a responsible opposition, I wished didn't repeat these lines, but I think it is, I would react only to what our people are saying rather than a head of state elsewhere.
So now that you've done two monumental things, you've put more money into the hands of the consumer, you brought down for the middle classes, the income tax cut, and now rationalization of GST. So will it now finally sort of move the needle on consumption?
100%. Because there's more money given already through the income tax cut.
Right.
The rates are coming down. So the citizen now has a choice. To meet his aspirations and his expectations, he cannot say, look, I have the money because the income tax is reduced, but these items are beyond my affordability. Now everything has come down. I'll give you this number which is important. 99% of all the goods and services which are touched by GST are now either in 0 or in 5 or in 18.
That's right.
There's nothing beyond. So that 1% is what makes for the demerit goods,
Right.
which popular parlance says sin goods.
Yeah.
So that is the extent to which we have cleansed the system of anomalies, doubts, duplications, and any interpretative issues.
So this will also lead to higher investments, it will fire up investments as well.
Obviously, with consumption going up, there's a potential for capacities to grow, investments to grow.